entertaining need to be entertaining. Do it in a way that is easy to swallow, it's easy to chew, it's chewable, and then actionable. What do you want? A like? You want a follow? You want a call? What do you want? You need to make sure, and that's part of your strategy. What's your goal of putting the content out there? What's your goal of having a podcast out there? It's just not to talk. You have a goal.
Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike.
Welcome, everybody, to our new episode of Minutes with Mike. Today, my very special guest, Lara Schmoisman. Lara, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. And you got my last name right, which is
of course
10 out of 10.
Now, if you're watching this episode and you see Lara and you're like, I definitely know her from somewhere, you're not alone, right? Because, and as you'll see as we go through our discussion here, she wears many, many hats. But what I know her from is I was introduced to her as somebody I definitely need to know that's in our world. And I can't remember what event it started with, but I don't remember going to an event in the last, 18 months or 12 months where you weren't already there. You are a fixture at these events. You are the numero uno person in the networking world. And as the chief networking officer at PIMS, like there's select people that I'm like, if this person's there, it's going to be a good time. If this person's there, I'm in the right place. And you're
I'm just going where you're going, Mike. That's why.
So I know in talking to you in the past, I want to start right from the beginning, where it is that you sort of built this love for our marketing world. But originally you were in the radio, TV, film world, right? So tell us how this all started.
I have more life than cat lives, I would say, which is funny because having so many lives make me not attractive to get a job. And so I end up having my own thing, which was meant to be. But anyway, yes, I started really early. I was a teen radio host. I was 14 when I started working in radio. It was fun.
What was it, like a program, like introducing
Was in the
songs, or?
summer. I can only my parents only would let me work in the summer. So in the summer times, I was in a beach community, and I was an assistant during the afternoon show from the beach. Then there was a teen show in the evenings that I was part of. And then they said, oh, you actually have a good voice. So would you do the 11 to 12 p.m. show? I said, sure. And I did it. And after, I'm coming from Argentina, so it's a different world. And then after that, my friends will pick me up and we'll go out all night. And then I will go to sleep a few hours in the morning and I'll start again at 2 p.m. in the beach show.
So, among the many things that you do, of course, you're a founder, you're a CEO, you are a podcast host, of course. How did you get from that world, right? So you did that when you were 14, you did it for a couple of years. You're only 28, 27 years old now. So
Right.
in such a short time, how did you get to CEO? Bridge that gap for me. How did that happen?
First of all, it's not that short time. We all know that I'm much older than that. But anyway, so what happened, my first degree is I realized at some point that I wanted more than just being a voice. And I wanted to get some education. So my first degree is in screenwriting, and my second degree is in production and direction of television. And actually, my last job in Argentina, I was a soap opera producer, which it was fun and I learned a lot. And then I came to the States just to learn English for 6 weeks because I didn't speak a word of English,
Right.
which is funny because in Argentina back then I couldn't find a job, but the same people who wouldn't give me a job in Argentina find out that I was in the US and say, hey, are you in LA? Can you cover the Oscars? Can you do this? Can you interview that? And me being me, I say, sure. And I just went, I did, and I got to meet the biggest celebrities. And I end up having two jobs, a day job, which was in marketing and distribution, and a night job that I was a producer and journalist for Red Carpet, which was very different times because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have digital cameras or anything. So I was red carpet, then after red carpet, then we had to go to the after parties, then to edit, and then to send it maybe sometimes even in different buildings to send it to satellites for the morning news. So were different times.
It's amazing, the more I speak to people and guests on their journey and how it all started. It's amazing to me, especially in today's world, with technology the way it is and the ease of access the way it is. I'm sure they have their own struggles of getting stuff to market and getting stuff ready to, to share with the world. But like, I think growing up in that day and age, and I'm a little bit older than you, but like the same happened, right? Like you literally had to roll up your sleeves. So you're doing your pre-production, you're doing the interviews, and then you're doing your own post-production, right? It helps
No,
you to
not
sort
only
of
it wasn't my own. I was working at networks, but still, first of all, you have two things. First of all, I was trained back then. We didn't have all the guilds. And so you were trained to do absolutely everything. My college degree, I had to learn how to edit, and it was manually, it wasn't digital. I had to have my eye trained, my hands trained, but also I was trained on lighting. I was trained on directing, on producing, on everything. So I was able to step in for anyone if needed. I wasn't an expert. That's what I was trained. I'm believing many times there was someone hungover and I had to step in for another job. I had to become very technical. I had to be very, very technical for understanding, okay, in what format I'm sending signal in or tapes, or how we're going to send that from satellites. It wasn't that easy back then. So and if I remember, you have to put cables and unplug. It was really fun. But also you had to learn a lot, and you learn making a lot of mistakes. You didn't have warning signs, something is not working. So
remember those big tapes, those before even the VHS tapes, they had those big beta tapes they used to
believe
use.
me, I work and I still have a lot in the garage. Anyway, so and then when I started working in distribution, I was very, very early stage working doing DVDs. Remember when the DVDs came out and it
Yes,
was so
yes.
fun? Okay, so I was doing that and I
Didn't
realized,
you think that was cutting edge
oh my
when that
God,
you
I
were like,
was
this is it?
I I I had a computer in my office that I created my own server so people can drag the files because they were so big and they were in my server. I felt like I was, oh my God, I'm this tech whiz. And and then I realized, I mean, the technology that we were using for DVDs is the same technology that led to today's digital world. So
Yeah.
my background in screenwriting was direct response that we were doing, understanding the consumer. Then I having all the background in television and audio that are podcasts and video that we use for streaming. I saw the future there. I say, I need to move to digital. And that's what I did. I moved to digital really early stage from the beginning. And my first website was in 1999. From then, I keep building and making mistakes and learning because there was nobody to teach you. And I was very lucky. I was able to collaborate with companies like MSN, Yahoo, AOL. So I learned from the big ones. And later on, even I was asked to teach at Cal Poly Pomona digital marketing for the fashion industry.
I was talking to a guest just the other day, and she attributed most of her success to the failures along the way, right? Those failures, you having to learn on the fly, you having to learn as you go along, not only, the technology, but you're learning the language at the same time, right? Like all this is transpiring at the same time. And having the the gumption within to be able to fail, and instead of crumpling the paper, throwing it in, and be like, I give up. Like you just keep going on. You keep continuing. Keep taking the next step.
I think also something in my case, my age, actually, I think that is something good for me because I had to learn things from the beginning and understand. I can really understand how things work. So I can deconstruct and start from the beginning or say, oh, this will work better if we combine it with this because I understand the technologies. And that's a big part of my job today. One of the big things that I do is to work with my partners, that it could be even someone in logistics like you, Mike, and that we can create software that integrated together. But then we need to have third party softwares. And so meet with them and evaluate what's better. And those are the things that they're more cost efficient, and also to understand where brands are at. Not
Mm.
every brand needs the same thing at the same time.
Which is a nice segue and leads us into the non-agency agency, the DARL.
Yes.
First, before we talk about the founding of the DARL, you told me this story at if you go to an event and Laura's there, you definitely want to park yourself right next to her because she does two things better than everybody. One, she's got great stories, and two, she's an introduction machine. She introduces you to everybody. Anybody that comes in the door, she knows them immediately, and she's not shy about introducing it. So, thank you. If I haven't told you thank you a million times, thank you. But
I just love people and I love to hear their stories. And you know what? Which is so funny is that I know a lot of people and sometimes I don't even know what they do for their work. And then I found out after a while, oh, really? You do that?
it fits perfectly in. But you
Yeah.
had told me the story of because I was like, what is the DARL? What does that even mean? Like, tell that story. I want you to tell me why you named it the DARL and what it is.
Okay, so the name of the DARL, actually my agency had a different name. And I was a one-man show at the beginning, and I did my own SEO, I did my own website, when very proudly say that is the same website that we have today with some evolution. And I love my website. And I was visiting my family in Argentina, actually, and I got a call from a lawyer saying, hey, didn't you get my cease and desist? I said, what's a cease and desist? Yeah, well, we are a big company in Chicago that we have a trademark. I say, trademark on an agency name? What are you talking about? And then I start finding out that I do want to have a name and use it. And apparently my SEO skills were pretty good. So I was being noticed.
Outshining them, yeah.
Yeah, what's been noticed, which is a good thing. It would give me a pat in the back. I mean, don't take things negative, just move on. But I had really few days to get my own name and get a trademark on it. And I wanted something that now that I found out that the trademarks existed, I wanted a trademark. So I started doing my own research and I was very frustrated. Everything was taken. And I don't know who told me a really bad idea was no darling. And I said, well, you always use the word darling. So why you don't do something with darling? And I say, no. I mean, I always thought that an agency name has to be my agency name needs to be an agency or a bar. I want the people that I work with, clients or in my teams, someone that I can drink a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. If I don't get in that box, I don't want you in my team. And darling wasn't it, but the darl wasn't bad.
It's perfect. It suits you perfectly. It's perfect segue, perfectly done.
The agency, no, non-agent agency was, so basically I was teaching. I was also working for big agencies at the time. And I got burnt out. I got completely burnt out and I quit everything. I thought I took 2 months sabbatical it was the summer. I said, I'm going to stay with my kids and then I'll see what I need to do. If I need to drive an Uber, so be it. I start people coming to me that they've been failing in their marketing. And me being me, I said, I'll fix your SEO. You need a new logo. Let me do it. Because being there than that, they did absolutely all of things. And the little things that I was doing for them and for free was working for them. So someone told me, hey, since what you're doing is working, why you just don't consult for me and work with my freelancers? And I was perfect. I'm gonna go into consulting. This is so amazing. I don't need to have a job. I just consult. And In theory, it was a great idea, but I found out two big things. Some freelancers weren't that good. And some of them were great, but they didn't have the strategy to work. And in the world that we work today, that is so omni-channel and interconnected, we need to make sure that those people have a roadmap of what they need to do.
Mhm.
And I realize sometimes for freelancers, it's really hard to work when you have tons of freelancers. You don't have a project manager. It's not collaborative. And every marketer, like in every company, you have your own book of how you do things. This is not science. It's not math. So we all have our own secret sauce. So it was really hard to work with freelancers. So I keep adding people to my team. I realized that a lot of companies, first of all, they didn't have a roadmap. Companies that they are smaller, I would say under 70 million in sales,
Mhm.
do they really need a CMO full time? Do they really need a graphic designer that you're trying to get a graphic designer to do packaging, to do web, to do social, and they're never perfect at anything? Everything is mediocre. And I say, no. So, and that's how I became the known agency because we become like your fractional team. You get me as your fractional CMO, but I come with my team that they know how I like to work. You get a project manager, get an account manager, and then everything gets segue through them. So you only need to give us 30 minutes a week and approvals.
I mean, the agency's highly successful, and just from the outside looking in, I could see all the great things you do, and I can see why people want to work with you, with your personality and all that you bring to the table. But tell me about some of the early lessons, or maybe some of the early clients, because, you know, if I look at some of the lessons I learned here at PIMS, in warehousing and fulfillment, I like to think that everything we did was perfect along the way. But of course, we learned as we went and tripped and fell and stumbled and made wrong decisions, but it made us better at what we do. So maybe you can share an example or some feedback on that.
Absolutely. Like, for example, at the beginning, my scope of work were like, I'm gonna do 5 posts of Facebook a week, plus 2 of Instagram, because that's where the algorithm wanted at the time of the signing. And I was so locked up in a contract putting that I couldn't do what it was right for the client.
Right.
And the algorithm was changing so much. Social media was kind of new back then. And I realized that no, that I need to restructure my scope of work, that I can change things as the algorithm wanted and the platforms wanted.
Again, it all leads to that. It makes you better at what you do, having failed at it or doing what you thought was the right thing, only
Yeah.
to learn later on, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I mean, you also think you learn to what clients you can really help and what clients you cannot. You
mm,
are okay of saying, I don't think we're right for you, or I don't think you're ready for me.
right, right.
And it's okay to say that.
With the networking, would you say that because you're West Coast based, but you make your presence well known on the East Coast as well, would you say, just going back to the networking end of things, is there a difference between West Coast networking, East Coast networking, would you say? Would you say the audiences are bigger or smaller, West Coast versus East
You know
Coast?
what? It's funny. I was in an event here in LA a couple weeks, months ago. It was more like a local West Coast event. And I say, I don't know anyone here. I'm in the East Coast and I know everyone.
Isn't that amazing?
It was so weird. I mean, and then finally I found someone that I know and we became buddies for the night. It was so weird. But I think that more things need to happen in the West Coast for the beauty wellness community. I think it was too East Coast after COVID. And I think that they create an opportunity. And not
Mhm.
only in October, apparently everything was happening in October in the West Coast and it was a little crazy.
Other ways of connecting with the world right outside of this networking is, there's many different platforms you can use, but you and I have both chosen to create these podcasts, right? And one of the reasons I decided to create the Minutes with Mike is I noticed your podcast, right? And
Hmm.
I just watched the episodes of you doing it. It was just so you do it so well and so comfortably that I was like, huh, she's making, I'm sure it's very hard, but she's making it look easy, right? What
I
made
remember I've
you,
been doing this since I'm 14, so
right?
I only had to learn to do it in a different language.
Right. Well, it's funny because I'll let the audience in on this one. I usually go over a bunch of different questions that I have, set up, and I sent it to Lara, and I said, "Here's, I'm going to ask you these things, just as a setup. But I'm going to appear on her podcast, and I'm like, just tell me what you're going to ask me." And she's like, "Oh, it comes to me, and I ask the question." Having never done a podcast, if you've never done that, to be able to do that, manage the time, deal with the guest, and come up with really intuitive, deep questions, that's a hard thing. And you do it really well. So I wanted to
Thank
ask
you.
you,
But remember, I come from doing this live. I had to do it, and there wasn't. If you make a mistake, you're on air. I was on air so many times that you learn on the job.
Lara's podcast is called Coffee Number Five. What went into the naming of that, and what do you focus on? In my shtick on my end is I really want to get to the nuts and bolts of who the people are that I speak to. Of course, it's important their business, and of course, it's important what they do. But I'm really curious about how they got from here to there. How did it all segue and start? What do you focus on in your
I'm
podcast?
just curious, and I like to talk to people. I'm always curious. I always like my husband makes fun of me that I go to a line and I kind of enjoy it because I make friends in a line and that I'm always talking to someone. And we're not talking about the one rolling the eyes, oh, this line is so long. No, you just find a way to connect with people. And if you're going to spend the time, spend it well. And it's about asking the right questions. It's about being generally interested in what others are as a people and the values. We were talking about networking before, and how many times I went to a networking event and I heard people to say, "Do you know who this person is? It's in my list of people that I want to tackle." I never ever go to a networking event with a list or with an
Mm.
agenda. Ever. I go open to opportunities.
The curiosity comes through too, like because like in selling, we both have background of selling things, right? And if you go with an agenda to sell things, it doesn't come off
It's about the same as selling. You don't listen to what your consumer is needing, how you can sell them.
right, right. And it's about that whole curiosity thing. And, I know a lot of the guests on your program are entrepreneurs, much like you. By the way, Laura is also a mother, and her husband's got a really cool story. He's a toy maker, and that we'll have to do a second podcast and bring
Yeah,
him
you should
along.
do it with him, not with me.
Going back to that, I know a lot of the guests are entrepreneur of nature, and you really do a good job in sort of finding out the nuts and bolts of what they're curious about, as you are, right? Like,
Let me give you also a preview. This year, we're going a little bit more into technologies because the technologies are one of the things that my lessons I learned in 2025 is that most businesses, and I'm talking about entrepreneurs, e-coms, businesses, they're using the wrong technologies, the wrong tech stack. So
mhm.
something that I've been doing consistently this year, also to work with geo, with SEO for AI, and we need to work on the speed. I always tell that your website is your home, is the only place that you really control the narrative, and everything goes everywhere from there. But if that is not working well, if we are not using the right technology and the right partners, you might be spending a lot of money in the wrong places.
Talk about that because I had those questions down later on, but it's perfectly fitting in here. Technology, AI, ChatGPT, it affects everything, right? From things like 3PLs and the way that people are expecting to get their products delivered to them affects us, right? Companies that are storing collateral with us want to be able to shrink the footprint on storage and costs associated with that. It's changing so much day to day and hour to hour. How do you see it evolving? Like what it came out of almost came out of nowhere, and now everybody's, if you're not using AI somewhere in your business, you're missing the boat. How do you see that evolve?
First of all, let me tell you something that happened internally at my company. that I had to go through a very strong restructuring this year, 2025, that we're finalizing it right now. And I'm so happy with what we accomplished. First of all, I had to change my position. I had to change my role. And my role is I work with the strategy part, but also with my partners. Big part of my week is working with our partners in technology. So with the new rollouts and how we're going to integrate with our clients, how we're using the technologies and use the right one for each client and roll out whatever doesn't work.
Mhm.
Like we got a new client. The first thing I did was an analysis of everything that they were using. They were overspending $60,000 a year in technology that they didn't need it because they have several technologies. They did similar things and they were using each one for different things.
And that comes from, I'm in that same boat. Like sometimes with the technology, you want to be involved in it. You're overextending on one, you're duplicating on another. You're not really sure what to use it for or what the best methods are.
But you know what's a big problem with that? Not only the money that you're spending those technologies, you're affecting your heart health, health,
Mm,
like your website health, your
mhm.
performance. So if your performance in your website doesn't work well, now is everything connected with your domain authority. So if your domain authority, your website health is not good, nothing is going to work well for you. Ads are not going to perform well. SEO, you're not going to be looked up in AI. So one of the changes that I had to do is to restructure how we work. We always work in a very collaborative environment, but now, for example, my SEO and GEO team is working constantly with my social media team because the same keywords that we use in websites need to go into different social medias. And everything needs to be a lot more integrated. We had our SEO team, they had to be trained because now they need to be doing checkout through ChatGPT
Right, right.
and all those things that yes is done by technology. Our development team performs a checkout, all that, but my SEO team is the one who needs to be constantly optimizing so people can check out with the words and the way that they talk. And going back to my background in screenwriting, it came really handy because one of the things that we had to learn how to do is to understand really well who's our customer and how they speak. It's like a character in a movie or a character in
Mm.
a TV show. We all know Friends, and then Joey will say, "How you doing?" Because that was part of their character, and that's how their characters speak. We need to know exactly the same thing about our consumer because now with AI, it's all about one question, how the question is asked by our consumer, and us, the brand, to be the answer.
I want to talk about of course, you haven't gathered it. Lara also has her own brand, Infuse Skin. I wanted to talk to you about that and influencer marketing and how that's working. But before I forget, I also wanted to ask you, I know you're involved in several boards and you're on different committees helping drive women-led founder organizations. How, how do you source yourself out? Obviously, you have a lot going on. Your time is valuable. What do you look for when you're going to join a committee, if you're going to join a board, if you're going to join a group in this case, women-owned businesses? How do you decide which one you're going to commit to?
Honestly, this year also I did a cleanup because I was overdoing it. I had
Sure.
to do a cleanup, and I realized first of all, what are they bringing to my table? And I found out that in many of communities, I was a giver. I was a giver, and it's like, is this what I need right now? This time, I don't have a problem being a giver, but do I have a time? And it's okay to give it to everyone, or you just take your time and give it to the right people at the right time. So I chose to be part of three communities this year. That's it. And that's what I do. And I just have my time scheduled to be part of it. And I'm there when I can, and when I can't, I can't. And I just made my decisions where I'm keeping for 2026. And that's what I'm doing. And that's it.
I also follow you on the social media channels, of course, and you are not shy about posting questions to the community about why and how come, or you'll give examples of things that you've done that didn't get the same reaction or feedback you expected, and you ask the question why, right? Engaging people on that end. it's refreshing to be able to follow somebody like that shares those type of things. And I know just watching it unfold, you got a lot of good feedback, but it raises other questions, and that curiosity comes back in too. Where people are saying, well, if it's happening to her, she's posting it here, I want to tell her about my end of things, or what. And I'm sure this whole ties into that whole.
It's all about storytelling at the end of the day. It's like one of the things that I learned early on was one of my screenwriting teachers that she was really well known back then in Argentina. And it's all about storytelling and how you present the facts. And this is something that I get really upset lately. Everyone is using acronyms. I've tried to make it really look smart because they're using these difficult words. And I think using the difficult words is easy. To know how to explain them in the easy ways, that's what is hard. Many ways, I feel like they're trying to confuse the client. And I always say one of my jobs is to be an interpreter. One of my jobs is understand my client and then talk to my development team in development jargon and talk to them, interpreting what my client wants. The same with my social media team, my SEO, my media buy. I can use each one, but with them, I do use a jargon because we both have an agreement that what those words means for us.
Mm-hmm.
My clients, those words mean nothing. And that's what I do, write my newsletter called Unpopular Opinions, because that's where I break it down. Let's make it easy. Well, this another thing, when I was teaching, my students were really struggling understanding the concepts of content with intention. That for me is a big thing. And everyone in my team need to have a sticker that it says content with intention in their desktop. And they need to have the IEMA system. That is something that I created, that it's called informative, entertaining, memorable, actionable. If those four things are not part of any piece of content that you put out there, don't do it. So if you're not giving new information, why people gonna keep coming to you? If you don't deliver it in a memorable way, don't do it. Nobody will remember that it was you. Entertaining need to be entertaining. Do it in a way that is easy to
Mm-hmm.
swallow. It's easy to chew. It's chewable,
Mm-hmm.
and then actionable. What do you want? A like? You want a follow? You want a call? What do you want? You need to make sure, and that's part of your strategy. What's your goal of putting the content out there? What's your goal of having a podcast out there? It's just not to talk. You have a
That's a
goal.
really good point too. Like, I think a lot of people use the word goal, and I think a lot of people sometimes do things without that goal in mind, just to do things, right? Like, I got to have a podcast, and I have to do this, and I have to get involved with this, and I have to do this, and we should do this, and we should post that. But what's the ultimate goal? Like, I do that with myself too. Some, when I'm posting things, whether it's on LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram, whatever, or on this podcast, am I just talking to talk, or do I have a goal in line, right? And being able to connect those dots and being able to tie that in, especially for clients, I think is a really valuable resource.
Yeah, it is. It's super important. Like this is not a secret that I have an issue with all those consultants that they offer the everything in the land because they work in big companies and they have the big companies mentality, but they trying to bring that to smaller companies and they're setting them up for failure. And then they come to me damaged. But I recently talked to someone who paid really good money to a consultant. And they say, well, we have our strategy. I sign an NDA. I see the strategy. They have one skill to sell. The price point was terrible. They would never be able to sell in another point that D2C because they don't have the margins. And anyway, it was such expensive product that it would be really hard to market. But then I see their strategy, and their strategy was not a strategy, it was a wish list. Let's say that tomorrow you're telling me, oh, you are running a 3PL business and, oh, but let's have a magazine also. And yeah, and you know what? Why we don't have a business of shining shoes in the lobby? Those are different businesses. So what's the goal with your business? Then if you want to do a podcast, it's different. It doesn't tie to your core business. And if it ties, how does it tie in this goal?
I laugh, but you're perfectly hitting on the head. I think a lot of people get absorbed in that, but again, without that goal, without that ultimate end result, you're just spinning your wheels.
And a lot of founders, and this is one of the reasons I created the DARL and the system I created, or the structure that we have, is being a founder. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah,
Being a founder, you need to be selling your product. You need to be socializing in the right places. You need to be creating new products. You need to have a roadmap, raising money, working with your finances. You shouldn't be doing your Instagram posts because
right.
probably your Instagram post, it won't work as good if you don't have a strategy and you only post an Instagram post every 2 weeks.
So you have your own brand, Infuse Skin, and you were kind enough to send me some samples that I share with my wife, and she, of course, is obsessed with it. So I definitely wanted to ask you about that. Being in this industry, how did you, because that's if all you were doing was that, that's more than.
Because I'm completely nuts.
How did that start, and how is that going?
That started because I'm completely crazy and maybe shouldn't done it ever, but it make me such a much better marketer. I just learned a lot that I didn't know from the other side. For example, it started because for my need, I mean, I'm over the 50 mark and I was really struggling with my skincare. Yes, I was really struggling with my skincare, and it's true. And I couldn't find anything that worked for me. And I came up with an idea, and I kept doing research. And because I'm part of I know who I want to work already. Like if I need something to do in my 3PL, I don't have to think twice. I know who I want to work with. And it's they come easy to me. Doing the packaging for me was easy because I knew what I wanted. I didn't have a client who tell me how to change it. So it was easy. It was a process. My part was easy. The hard part, it was like doing packaging, sourcing, all those things, ingredients. That doing R&D, I realized how important is to be thinking marketing from the R&D part.
Yeah, good point.
Like so many people that I learned how to do competitive analysis of R&D to help clients. Like what ingredients are using, what ingredients are the competitions, what are the ingredients that are going to be trending. Are you doing exactly the same as a competition? What's going to be your differentiation part? Who is your target audience? Before that, look at your white space. What are you going to be competing?
Mhm.
Who is your person? How they talk? So, how go and look at the shelf. Where do you ambition your product in the shelf? For example, this is Infuse, and when I create Infuse, I want not the colors I like or who I am. It was like, what is in the shelf? What I envision myself, and how can I stand out in the shelf? Also, it's very expensive to get to be in the shelf, and when you're
Yeah,
self,
that's what I was just going to ask you too. Like, how have the recent struggles with things like tariffs, supply chain, how have those recent struggles sort of affected these, in your case, a new brand that is to marketplace that's of course trying to get its share of the marketplace. How how have the little guys, because you're also in touch with other founders that are in likewise position.
for me, honestly, yet haven't affected me yet because I manufacture in the US. So, and I had packaging done and all that. So I wasn't yet affected.
Mhm.
Was what happened when we need to put reorders. But I think that founders need to understand that takes a lot of investment. And there are trendy words that everyone talk about, and the cost of acquisition, it's really high now. So you need to talk about the lifetime value, not talk about the ROAS anymore. You need to create that loyalty with the product, and you need to listen to your consumers. Like, for example, I had a new brand at launch, and they had something that comes repetitive as a comment from the public. So it's something that I take it very seriously. And as a new brand, you can adjust. That's a great thing. That's why you should start slow and learn and not put so many skills out there, and just start strong and have products that the people really, really love. And then when you feel like you're really in a good place, then you start applying for awards, and then you start applying for some press. Like, a lot of brands are burning themselves at they have to have everything from the beginning.
Right.
And it's not like that. You need to, because even if I get a list of, or let's say I have all the names and addresses from celebrities in the world and the biggest celebrities in Hollywood, I can go and give it to them. Doesn't mean that they're going to be using it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that they're going to be posting it or anything. I'm just going to be spending extra money giving product. So, and that's something you need to keep in consideration. You guys do an amazing job with unboxing. I mean, there is nobody I know more creative than you guys doing unboxing. But there is a right place to be successful with unboxing too.
I absolutely agree. And you're a dear friend to us here at PIMS and always have been. So we certainly appreciate that. I wanted to get your take on uh, that exact point. When people think of influencer or target marketing or sending things out to creators, when people first started sending things out to people, they were like, I have 10 SKUs, send one of everything to them and just hope for the best. Now everything is customized and personalized and select. And Laura's going to get this and this and shade matching and size matching and color. Everything is very specific and customized to that person.
It's all about experiences. So I always tell brands at the beginning, young brands, the only thing you need to do is to create user general. This is my take. Each one has their own book. And I think that you're not gonna get those big name in PR if you don't have a recognized name. So what you need is real people talking about your products. Go and do pop-ups. And that's what I was talking about, the job of a founder. Go and talk to people, talk about your story. And that's what I always say, that I'm not a great founder because I don't have time for that. But that's the right thing to do. And that's how brands succeed, because you need to be able to put that work and go and talk and do pop-ups and show product. Don't try magic. This is not a wand. This is not, even if you have a lot of money and you're still a new brand.
Yeah.
You need to earn your space. You're like the new kid on the block.
What key? I know we're coming short on time here, but I definitely wanted to ask you about key trends, right? Like, so what do you see coming down the road? Like, what's next for the DARL, or what's next on your plate, so to speak, of things that you want to make sure that you are first and foremost with offering it to your clients, certainly, but like, where do you think the industry, the beauty, the wellness world is headed?
I think that the consumer is getting smarter, and also with everything that is SEO and GEO, we really need to be smarter at how we do things. So things are changing. People are changing. They're getting tired. Also, I feel like, for example, there was a big trend over the years that all these brands that they are mission driven and, oh, I give to charity and this and that. People want products that work, and then they will attach to a mission. So it is about performance. And the same thing with GEO is changing the game. It's a game changer. You cannot do a website anymore with a graphic designer. You cannot do just a pretty website. All your website, they need to be performance based, because I always give this example. Let's say you want to put your house in the market. You stage it, you clean it, you fix it, but then you never even put a sign that is in the market. You don't get a real estate agent. You don't put it in any website. So how would you sell your house? It's the same thing with your e-com right now. And other thing is like, I know a lot of people have issues that, oh, if I'm in Amazon, if I'm in marketplaces, it will make me look bad. No, the world has changed.
Mm.
And people are going to be buying where they are comfortable. So all those integrations are important.
I could talk to you forever. We're actually doing dueling podcasts. So this is my interview of Lara. She's going to do the same for me. So if you're watching this and you're enjoying this, make sure you get ready for part
So
two,
you
and
watch the other side.
which is her interviewing me. But I thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy, and anybody that knows you personally, like I do, or certainly works along with you, knows that you give 110%, and you're a great friend to have in this industry of ours. If the opportunity arises that you're looking for somebody in her in her marketplace, certainly reach out to her. How can somebody get in touch with you?
TheDARL.com. I'm easy to find. I mean, every social media. Well, that's what we do. And yeah, I'm easy to find. I mean, just put my name. There's just one Lara Schmoisman out there.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mike, for having me.